Big staff that's done this. What would you say the man hours that have gone into this, the detail that you've poured into this over the last 12 months?
Good question. A lot of hours. I don't know exactly how to quantify that, but I would say that our scouts have full-time jobs, not part-time jobs.
What do you, in your estimation, what's the likelihood that the Magic tomorrow night only select 4 and 12, and that's all you do?
Tough to say. You know, everything's really fluid at the moment. So I think there's a possibility that we could select at 4 and 12. I think there's also a possibility that some or both of those picks could be in play. So our job over the next however many hours till the draft is to prioritize what we feel is the best opportunity for us, and then try to go ahead and capitalize on that.
Would you call the next 24 to 30 hours hectic, or how would you describe that?
Just busy, just very busy. And I think the key at this point in time is to have a good prioritization process, which is to make sure that, you know, all these different things that are coming in and out, we need to do a good job of making sure that we stick to our priorities and our principles.
How much of the events of the past week with Joel Embiid, to a lesser extent, Saric, influence what you may have already had in your mind?
Yeah, you know, I think it makes an unpredictable night even more unpredictable, is how I would categorize it.
Rob, back here. Obviously there's always pressure to produce and whatnot, and the last 2 years have obviously been a rebuilding process. Where do you think does the pressure kind of amp up, if you will, come this season, given that you are expected to have more pieces in place, and obviously there's the natural deal with fans that, you know, they've got a patience level they can only go so far.
Sure. You know, I think big thing for us is to just stay the course. You know, continue to add to the team, continue to improve the team, and to do it in a fashion that allows us to show improvement, allows us to play in more meaningful games next season. But at the same time, we don't want to skip steps. We don't want to compromise our vision, which is to build a competitive team for a long time. So if there's an opportunity that's out there that will allow us to speed that up, great. If not, I think the onus is on us to just continue to chip away and stay disciplined.
What's your philosophy on drafting injured big men?
Depends.
On what?
Depends on a lot of factors. Depends on a lot of factors. We treat every case and every circumstance different. So it's going to be all relative to the multitude of factors that are in play.
Has the team received Joel Embiid's medical reports?
You know, I'm not going to comment on what information we have, but I will say that we do have information, and we're analyzing it, and we'll continue to look to gather more information leading up to tomorrow night.
Do you look at that in a vacuum as this is one player, this is one injury, or do you look at the history of big men with either foot issues or back issues? Do you look at that as well?
We're going to look at everything. That's our job. Our job is to look at everything, to look at, again, all the different factors, all the risk, the reward, and everything in between. And we got to make the best decision for our team. So whatever we feel that is, we'll go ahead and do that.
Are you looking for 2 players that can contribute now, or could this be one of your selections be somebody who you may not get for another year or 2 because of commitments to playing overseas or injuries?
Yeah, I think it's relative to who's on the board when we're picking. So we're not going to confine ourselves to we need someone who can contribute right away, or we need someone who maybe more of a long-term play. It's going to be a decision that's relative to what's available. So we're open to both.
Well, how do you balance picking for need and picking for best player available? How do you balance that when you're in the room?
Yeah, good question. You know, I think a lot of it comes down to, you know, trying to accomplish the goals that we have. There's never going to be an easy decision to make. You're always going to have to make a call on a need or a fit or what have you. So it's a balancing act, and a lot of that, I think, plays into the overarching vision, which is to make sure all the different pieces fit one another and complement and help one another. So that's the strategy we'll use to try to make that decision.
Rob, have you and your staff seen Dante Exum play enough in order to make an educated decision on whether to draft him if he's available?
Yes.
In your mind, Rob, are other teams more willing to deal this year? Has there been more talk than what you've seen in the past?
You know, I'm not sure. I can't speak for the other teams. But I know that we've had a lot of discussions with teams. I think my guess would be most teams have had a lot of discussions with other teams. That's what happens this time of year. So I would categorize the chatter as appropriate for this time of year.
So from your perspective, you've been involved in a number of drafts. How does this one compare leading up to today with other drafts that you've been involved with in terms of chatter and, you know, just...
I'd say about the same. Yeah, about the same.
Yeah, no different.
How strong is this draft relative to other drafts? There's talk this is the most deep draft since 2000, was it 4? 3?
To be determined. Ask me that in 3 to 4 years. I'll have a much better answer for you. I think every draft is relative, and you know, I think a question to ask is we don't know. You know, we don't know exactly what this draft will become, and the question is when will we know? And I don't have an answer for that. I think it's to be determined.
Rob, how much emphasis do you put on the individual workouts when you guys come in and when they come in to see you guys, and how do you avoid potentially overvaluing a workout with potentially years of college basketball footage or overseas footage with which to work?
Just try to use the right perspective. It is a valuable piece to the puzzle. It's not the only piece, so you know, any workout that we have, we try to make sure that we weigh that accordingly and we keep the right perspective in mind. But it is very important, more so for the just the time you get to spend with the players versus what they actually do on the court.
Rob, this is your and your staff's third draft together. How are you different? How's that experience helped you now than maybe 2 years ago when you were doing it for the first time?
More inside jokes. You know, everybody is just more comfortable with each other. The chemistry is better, as you would expect, just having been together for a longer period of time. So the group works very, very well together. We're really proud of them.
How many people in all will be involved tomorrow night in the decision-making process? Have been involved up to this point?
That's a question for Joel, because he's actually making the pick. No, quite a few, dozen or so, I would say.
How much input does Jacques have?
A lot of input. Yeah, Jacques and I are very much aligned in what our goals are and what our vision is and what our objectives are. So he probably has more say than I do.
Rob, what do you look to accomplish when you bring in a prospect for a second workout that you didn't get to see in the first workout?
Yeah, a lot of different things. But the goal really is just to spend more time with the player. That's the real impetus for bringing someone back.
Has anyone sung in an interview yet? Is that like Victor? I mean, that seemed like you said that separated him.
I don't think so. Maybe hummed, but I don't know about the song. I don't think so.
All right.
This franchise has signed an injured player before, and the backlash reaction from the fans, you weren't here, but people upstairs probably were. How much of that past history would come into play when it comes to...
Well, look, I think you always have to look at context and precedents and those types of things. At the same time, I think you got to treat everything on a case-by-case basis relative to that particular circumstance. So that'll be the lens through which we look at all these different things as it relates to whatever risk there may be in this draft.